Okay, a little disclaimer first. WT, or What's This, is not a review, it's more of a recommendation. In this video I'll talk about the show's strong points and how it might appeal to certain audiences. In doing so, I will hopefully adjust the viewers' expectations and help them enjoy the show to the fullest. So with that in mind, let's start.
涙の雨が頬を叩くたびに美しく
Slice of life is such a weird genre that I feel is, in many ways, unique to the medium of anime, and by extension manga and light novels. What I love about it the most is how varied it is. There are so many different souls out there. There are comedic souls, dramatic souls, romantic souls, supernatural souls, basically any kind of soul your soul might desire. There is also what I like to call working environment slice of life. Shows that demonstrate the very busy but enjoyable nature of working and interacting with your colleagues and customers. Shows like Shirabako, Working, Servant X Service, and Hanasaku Iroha. Hanasaku Iroha, or simply Hanairo, is an anime produced by PA Works that debuted in April 2011. It was directed by Masahiro Ando, who also worked on such shows as Sword of the Stranger, Tetsuya and the Tempest, Kagami no Shiruiki Hime, Kanan? Okay, whatever. And who is currently working on Under the Dog. The script was written by Maria Okada, who has worked on a lot of stuff. Seriously, if you're someone who's been watching anime for at least some time, chances are you've seen at least some of her work. And character designs for the show were provided by Mel Kishida, who worked on such projects as Sound of the Sky or Sora no Woto, Heaven's Memopad, and some games in Atelier series. Hanairo stars as 16-year-old Ohana Matsumae, a young and energetic girl from Tokyo who, because of some circumstances with her mother, has to relocate to the country region of Yunasagi, where she will work and live in a traditional hot springs inn named Kisuiso. And that doesn't sound so bad, doesn't it? Well, the problem is that the inn is run by Hana's grandmother, who long before Hana was even born, disowned Hana's mom after she ran away from home. And let's just say that Hana and her grandmother's first meeting didn't go too well. Let's start with the part that makes Hanairo slice of life first and foremost, the work. Anime goes to a great depth to show the viewer how exactly the traditional hot springs inn operates. All the little details such as daily schedule, cleaning, greeting parting with customers, preparing food, maintaining inn's utilities, dealing with difficult customers, and even such stuff as attempts to innovate the image of the old inn are covered. What it does is it creates an amazing and truly living setting that characters populate, and that makes Kisuiso as much a character as everyone else. By the end of the show, you feel like you got to experience the very essence of the inn, both as a customer and as a worker. You know its history, you know how it changed through the years, and how differently people from different generations perceive it. You know how characters ended up in that place, and how it gave them shelter. You know what happens in it every single day, and when you have to leave it for some time, you truly miss it. You know why that old and rusty building is just so precious to everyone. Another aspect that Hanairo does really well in relation to its setting is the portrayal of the rural region of Yunasagi. In fact, Hanairo did such an amazing job of that it boosted the tourism of the regions the town Hanairo was based on. They even got Hanairo-themed trains with voice actresses from the show announcing the names of stations. How crazy is that? But back to the point. Hanairo builds an atmosphere by combining realistic backgrounds of the country with a very colorful yet rustic palette. It creates this very calm and relaxing atmosphere. That, in turn, creates a very striking and effective contrast with the way the show portrays Tokyo. Tokyo simply feels so much sharper than Yunasagi, with all its fluorescent lights, high-rise buildings and neon signs. So the combination of very detailed work environment of the inn and the very warm yet rustic atmosphere of the town ends up creating a truly living and dynamic setting of the show. After finishing Hanairo, you feel like you actually visited these places and ended up having a great and memorable time. As is often the case with slice of life shows, Hanasaku Iroha's strongest point is undeniably its cast. While Hanairo doesn't have as many characters as, say, Shurabako, there is still quite a few people that Hana comes across during her stay at Kisuiso. The main cast consists of 4 characters. Our protagonist Ohana Matsumae, Her colleague and second waitress, shy but very capable Nako Shimizu, Ohana's new roommate and the youngest member of kitchen team, very rash but hardworking Minka Tsurugi, and the cheerful, carefree and charismatic air of competing in Yuina Wakura. These four between them have a sizable chunk of screen time and development dedicated to them, and fairly so. Watching four of them grow, learn new skills, get closer to each other, and ultimately develop a very genuine and believable friendship is quite a joy. Then we have Ohana's family, with their very own can of worms. Ohana, her mother Satsuki, and her grandmother Sui dealing with each other and mending their absolutely horrible family relationship is a pretty important plot point of the show. What I appreciate about both Sui and Satsuki is how in many ways unlikable in the very beginning they are. The way two of them treat Ohana make you feel genuinely bad for the girl. However, as the show goes on, not only do we get to know more about them and their very own pretty complicated perspectives, but they also exhibit some very noticeable and natural character development. And that is really unusual, considering that Satsuki and Sui are 38 and 68 years old respectively. It's just something that doesn't happen too often in anime. And finally, we have the personnel of Kusuiso, with its waitresses, management, maintenance and chefs. While they don't get as much screen time as Ohana and her close friends and family, they still have their fair share of development and great moments. What I like about the staff of Kusuiso the most is that they feel like a real team, with real goals and a real hierarchy that dictates how they interact with each other. All the little relationships and dynamics of the inn are what's making it so entertaining and enjoyable to watch. People respect each other, they listen to each other, they disagree with each other, but they still work together as a true family. The cast of Hanaero feels like a real and living group of people, where everyone has their own dreams, doubts, ambitions and flaws. For the longest time, long before I even started watching anime, I struggled with the notion of relatable characters. I simply couldn't find one. I could always recognize a character that's supposed to be relatable, but I myself could never find that one character that would make me go, damn, I totally get how he feels right now. Well, that's until Ohana came along. Ohana's personality, her little traits, and all the events that surround her, everything is incredibly realistic and relatable. You feel bad for her as she had to change her entire lifestyle and leave her friends behind because of her mother's whim. You feel bad for her because little hopes and expectations of the new lifestyle that she managed to master get crushed the moment she stepped in the inn. You feel bad for her because for the longest time, she's simply unable to find a reason why she wants to work and improve. But even though I want to pity Ohana, Ohana is never pitiable. Ohana's very unique kind of resolve is what defines her. After years of living with a very free-spirited and irresponsible mother, Ohana developed her very own way of dealing with problems. She just rolls with it. No matter what life gives her, Ohana doesn't complain, she goes with the flow, and she figures out the rest later. That's not to say there is a perfect way of dealing with problems. For example, after settling at Kusuiso, Ohana, in her inexperience and blind enthusiasm, screws up on multiple occasions and creates problems for the inn. Even after she gets more experienced, she cannot figure out why she wants to work. Is that to become better? Is that to spite her mother or grandmother? Is that just to earn money? Hanasaku Iroha is, in essence, Ohana's personal journey to find and improve herself. And when Ohana is not undergoing all that character development business, she's just being an incredibly enjoyable, likable and precious individual. Ohana is what you might call a busybody. She's loud, energetic, direct, very friendly and rarely discouraged. Imagine Aoi Miyamori, but younger and on steroids. It's Ohana's very affectionate personality and her very lovable and weird little traits that make her personal journey and by extension the entirety of Hanasaku Iroha so enjoyable and relatable. Let's just say that Hanasaku Iroha is one hell of a good looking show. PA Works are known for very solid visual performances, and Hanaero certainly lives up to the studio's reputation. I have already mentioned all the amazing and realistic background the show has, but in addition to all that, there is some very fluid and expressive character animation and very solid cinematography. There are numerous very inventive and breathtaking shots of characters, their reactions, and villages and cities with their various topography. And there are also amazing character designs provided by Mel Kishida. This is the kind of character design that I appreciate very much in slice of life shows. Each and every character looks distinct, but not over the top, with various little details that reflect or enhance the character's personality. Like, for example, Ren's intimidating crew cut and the scar above the brow, contrasting with the fact that he's the biggest dork in the inn. Or Ohana's wavy hair and flower pin reflecting her very bubbly and friendly nature. And finally, there is the music. The soundtrack is a bit varied, with tunes fitting for both dramatic moments and comedic ones, but overall it's pretty relaxing and feels right at home with the show's country atmosphere. I'd also like to mention how good both OPs of the show are. They have very memorable and enjoyable songs provided by NaNoWriMo, and they do an amazing job by demonstrating the very busy nature of working at Kisuiso. In addition to two OPs, NaNoWriMo also provided a number of insert and ending songs, and the main singer of the band even has a little cameo in the latter part of the show. Hanasaku Iroha is many things. It's a decent comedy, it's a varied romance, and it's undeniably an eye candy. But most of all, Hanasaku Iroha is an incredible personal journey of a very unique girl. If you want to see a show that gives you a very unusual and detailed setting, that gives you a varied, likable, and constantly developing cast, that gives you a complete and satisfying story with focus on the value of work, family, and friendship, then you should, by all means, give Hanasaku Iroha a go. Hey guys, thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to like, dislike, subscribe, or comment on my horrible accent. But in all seriousness, please feel free to leave any sort of feedback, because right now I'm still kinda figuring the stuff out. And if you liked Hanasaku Iroha, then you should check out Hanasaku Iroha Home Sweet Home. It's kind of a side story movie. It focuses almost entirely on Ohana's mother and on the past history of Kisuiso. Other than that, I'd say check out Tari Tari. It's another show by PA Works and it has a lot of similarity with Hana Iroh, especially in its visual style and overall narrative. So, once again, thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to join me next time when I will hopefully talk about the Idol Master. Until then, see ya! Oh, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, you handsome people!